Greetings from LA, my dear friends. This is Daisuke, and I very much hope that this video finds you well and in very good spirits wherever you are in the world. And today, right now, it is Monday, November 18th, 2024. It is in the early afternoon hours where I am right now. And my understanding is that earlier in the day, the Criterion Collection made its announcement with respect to its planned releases for February 2025. And I went over to the website to check out what they were. And I looked at them, and I have a few thoughts and comments about my initial thoughts and comments about them. So if it's okay with you, my dear friends, let me now share with you my initial thoughts and comments with respect to the planned releases for February 2025 from the Criterion Collection. And so before I begin, my dear friends, let me say that right now I am responding to what I see on the website of the Criterion Collection, and I'm not therefore providing any comments or my reactions to the actual item itself. So when the items are made available, again next year in February 2025, if it's okay with you, my dear friends, let us together, you and I, let us together discover and or rediscover or explore those items, indeed, when they become available again next year, early next year. But in the meantime, that won't hopefully prevent us from at least sharing our thoughts and comments about our initial reactions to what we find on the Criterion Collection website. Incidentally, of course, if you want to find any more specific information about the titles themselves, the planned cover art designs, the planned specifications, and also list up of, say, planned included special features, etc., as well as similar information for any other title in the Criterion Collection physical media catalog, you can of course check out the Criterion Collection website directly for more information. And that might change over the course of, say, now and the release date. That has happened every once in a while, so it's always good to always check back to the Criterion Collection website for the definitive up-to-date information. But as far as I see it right now, based on what I have on the computer screen in front of me, we have planned releases for February 2025. So let me now get to it. And so we have, first up, scheduled for release on, oops, sorry, I messed up here. I planned to do it smoothly, but oh well. Things happen and I can't do it smoothly here. I was planning to go right transition-wise into a smooth transition into my discussion of the Criterion Collection. There you go. Now I'm able to bring it up on my computer. So first up, schedule for release, February 4th, 2025. And this is a title which is at spine number 843. So this is in fact a title which currently exists in the Criterion Collection physical media catalog in a Blu-ray option. Again, Criterion continuing to make available or applying or employing the 4K UHD format in terms of its physical media releases or selected physical media releases. And this seems to be among the latest batch of those 4K UHD physical media options made available for its releases. Again, it's spine number 843 of a film that already exists in the Criterion Collection physical media catalog, of a work which is described as being from the year 2002. And the name of the filmmaker is Paul Thomas Anderson. And the name of the work is Punch Drunk Love. Punch Drunk Love with Adam Sandler and Emily Watson and others. This is a film that I haven't spoken about. I don't think I've spoken about this film directly on this channel. I really should. There are many films that I haven't spoken about that I wish I could have. But again, the many faults and defects and weaknesses of my channel, and perhaps my omission of discussion on Punch Drunk Love is yet one of those really glaring omissions on my channel, and I apologize for that. But hopefully the release in February or next year, early next year, will in a way enable me to endeavor to remedy that oversight on my part, because this is a really stellar film. It has that Paul Thomas Anderson say, mystique or quality or aesthetic about it, which I think is, on the one hand, very low key. And I mean this in a very positive way, very low key and very subtle and very nuanced on the one hand, but also in many ways there are things that he does or things that the ensemble do or the ensemble does and help to, in a sense, heighten or enlighten or raise or indeed uh, 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 saturate in a really poetic way the real sort of emotional highlights of the characters that are involved in the many stories that he has developed. And Punch Drunk Love, I think, is a really great example of this. There's a lovely sense of this idea of, say, the quiet subtleties of day-to-day activities and how some of those, say, interactions within those subtleties are heightened in these wonderful, brilliant flourishes. So there's this wonderful maybe counterbalance, or this wonderful sense of interplay between seemingly disparate or seemingly contradictory elements. But Paul Thomas Anderson, I think, does that mixing and that balance so well. And Punch Drunk Love. I mean, there's also the sense of malaise or the sense of almost meandering on the one hand, and I mean that in a very positive way. There's a sense of almost aimlessness on the one hand, but there's also a sense of a trajectory towards a kind of destination or goal, whatever that goal might be, depending on the characters that we're talking about here. I think there's a real special quality, and that's that combination that creates this lovely sense of uplift or magic. And it's really apropos in a film like Punch Drunk Love, I would say, because, again, based on my own personal experience with it, it has this sense of a there's a sense of a slight distance, but there is a tremendous amount of warmth. There is a sense of cynicism on the one hand, but there's also a sense of this very nourishing type of cinematic optimism. And I think it's also grounded or perhaps centered or focused by the way in which the story again progresses in this wonderful almost mix of balance and counterbalance that I was trying to allude to. And also it's countered, or it's not countered, but it's also buoyed and guided along by the great performances. And you have to highlight the wonderful repartee and the connections, the cinematic connection you have between Emily Watson's performance. It's a brilliant performance from Emily Watson. I'm a huge admirer of Emily Watson's work, and this being one. And then huge admirer of Adam Sandler's work. And this, I think, has been heralded or highlighted as being one of the great Adam Sandler performances. I think Adam Sandler's career is brilliant, absolutely brilliant. This is one of many great performances by Adam Sandler. From early on in his career up to the present day. But Punch Drunk Love is just, it's up there in terms of among the great Adam Sandler performances, and I think for a wonderful reason. And I think this idea of the great, almost cinematic, poetic way in which seemingly disparate or contradictory points tend to be combined so wonderfully in a Paul Thomas Anderson work like Punch Drunk Love, really shine forth in or exemplified in the way in which Adam Sandler performs the performance. It is a very magical film, and it's one of the, I think, highlights of, say, the recent Criterion releases of the last, say, several years. So it's been mentioned quite frequently based on my own anecdotal experience. People have mentioned it to me as being among the picks that they have chosen, things that they have purchased from the Criterion sales or other outlets where titles of the Criterion Collection physical media catalog are sold. And Punch Drunk Love does come up a lot, again, based on my own sort of anecdotal recollection of what many people over the years have told me. I've been very grateful for people sharing me that information. And so Punch Drunk Love, I think, is a kind of, I think, well-deserved popular hit. And hopefully with this 4K release, or this option of a 4K, that popularity will continue to grow and grow and grow, and also discovery by new audiences along the way. I can't believe it's been it feels, again, from my vantage point, from my perspective, it feels like a very recent movie, but I think about it, it's over 20 years old. My goodness, time certainly flies, but it feels like it still feels fresh, and that wonderful, say, poetic cinematic fragrance. It's fresh and vibrant as ever, I'd say. So uh, and there also this way into. I mean, I mentioned this kind of freshness, and it also at the same time it captures a almost homage appeal to it. And there's the structure of the story. One can say, I think it can have parallels in certain wonderful traditional molds of storytelling. On the one hand, while also capturing, again, going back to what I said before about the Paul Thomas Anderson aesthetic in a very memorable way. So the 4K Blu-ray option or the 4K UHD option will be made available. That's not to say that it's not available now, because it is. I have the Blu-ray somewhere on the shelf here, and so I would assume that as Criterion has been known to do, they will very likely. We'll have to check this, but they will very likely carry over all the supplemental material that they have for the current Blu-ray release. They'll have that part of the package for the 4K UHD plus Blu-ray combo edition that they'll make available again in February. But this is very exciting. I'm very excited. Again, I haven't spoken about this Criterion release specifically, the Blu-ray. So in any event, this will be an opportunity for me to hopefully be able to share with you some more detailed comments about the supplements, etc., as well as the film itself when it arrives early next year. So this is first up in February, February 4th, 2020. Maybe it's apropos. I don't know if this is meant to be a signal of some kind of Valentine's month trajectory of the Criterion releases for February. Who knows? But in any event, whether it's coincidence or planned, whatever the case may be, it is certainly very welcome indeed. This option of this film. The 4K Blu-ray release, again, planned for February 4th, 2025. It's of the film, which is Punch Drunk Love. Next, scheduled for release on February 11th. Yes, February 11th, 2025. And this is scheduled for Spine number 1249. And this is a film which is described as being from the year 1987. And the name of the filmmaker is Jean-Luc Godard. The name of the film is King Lear. King Lear, Jean-Luc Godard's King Lear, is coming to the Criterion Collection in February next year. You have the option of a single disc Blu-ray or a single disc DVD, which is great. As I mentioned before, it's always nice to see the DVD option being made available. Maybe not for all the titles, right? I know the DVD option is not made available for all titles, but even for some of the titles, in particular for the new releases or the new entries into the Criterion Collection physical media catalog, as this film is, King Lear, because it doesn't currently exist at the moment in the Criterion Collection physical media catalog, but it will in February. So to have the DVD option being made available, that's very exciting news. So, King Lear, Jean-Luc Godard's King Lear. This is a film that I've been very fortunate to have seen a number of times. I remember my own Jean-Luc Godard, say, cinema journey when I was in my late teens, early 20s, and I was very fortunate to have had available to me for my access a number of Jean-Luc Godard films on VHS tape that weren't necessarily readily accessible elsewhere. On this during my college years, and among the films that I was able to watch for the first time was King Lear. Granted, it was maybe not the best or the highest quality VHS tape ever, but still it was quite an eye-opener. And I remember seeing it again. It was one of those things where my initial reaction after having seen the film Jean-Luc Godard's King Lear for the first time was and I paraphrase, what the heck did I just watch? It was that kind of reaction. And it's a film that I think it's grown on me, but it's also a film that's very challenging for me, incredibly challenging. And I must admit that much like my experience with Jean-Luc Godard's works, in other periods of his filmography, because as I acknowledge, I understand that, at least my understanding is that his films, although he has a vast filmography, and one can say that a film that he makes in, say, one particular point in, say, the mid to late 1980s, like King Lear, has certain similarities, but also can be said to be vastly different from a film that he makes, say, in the mid 1960s, in a maybe similar yet uh, acknowledged to be different circumstances. So in that way, I have this interaction with Jean Godard films that I've been very fortunate to have seen, where I struggle with them a lot. And I have to watch them over and over and over again to be able to try to keep up with what it is he's trying to do. With King Lear, I'm at the point in my life where I think where I reached the point where in my head I think I know what he's trying to do in certain aspects, but then I feel like there are certain curveballs that are thrown towards my vicinity that I'm not able to avoid or to swerve. But I find that I say that in a very positive light. King Lear, Jean-Luc Godard's King Lear, is certainly a very unique perspective, shall we say, on maybe the play or the Shakespeare text, but also maybe the rumors or impressions or the feelings or the things on the periphery, as well as in the text proper. So in that way, I think it has this say overarching way about tackling notions of King Lear and notions of Shakespeare, perhaps writ large, which I think are very much, again, and also quite admittedly, and also perhaps very refreshingly, not perhaps, but definitely very refreshingly, also told from, or perhaps through the prism of what one might call the Jean-Luc Godard experience. So it's this wonderful way in which Jean-Luc Godard's films, like King Lear, can tend to create this prism of, say, um, um, a sense about sort of the Godard sensibility in which you're watching something that has a almost total subjectivity about it. And so when you have a film, or at least when I encounter a film like King Lear, and it has a sense of total subjectivity, what that means to me is, in a sense, I can endeavor to try to keep up, but I will not be able to keep up all the way. But again, that's part of not just the charm, but it's also part of the fun and challenge of watching any good art film for me. And I think King Lear, his mid to late 1980s King Lear, um, his cinematic approach to King Lear, I think, is very apropos indeed. So this is very exciting news about this. I wouldn't necessarily call it my favorite Jean-Luc Godard film ever, but it doesn't have to be, and I'm definitely taken with it, and I'm this wonderful sense of maybe bewilderment also encourages me to try to challenge myself more with the text. And so when I say text, I mean the Jean-Luc Godard cinema text of King Lear, as well as my own my own sense of what it is Shakespeare's King Lear means to me. I don't hold myself out to be in any way an expert when it comes to Godard films or Shakespeare text, let alone anything else. But this is certainly a really exciting treat, and so this will be interesting to see. If you haven't seen King Lear, John Godard's King Lear, for the first time, oh my goodness! Oh, please let me know when you watch the film King Lear. Let me know what your initial responses are. I'd love to hear back from you, my dear friends. But in any event, King Lear, Jean-Luc Godard's King Lear, is coming to the Criterion Collection. This is very exciting, and this is it's a new 2K digital restoration, as the site says, as well as a number of interviews. It says some news, so not sure what this will bring, but hopefully a lot of wonderful 1980s Godard goodness as the saying goes. So, my dear friends, this is very exciting. Scheduled for release February 11th, 2025 for Spy number 1249, and this is the film which is King Lear. Next, scheduled for release on February 18th, 2025, and we have here the option of either the 4K Blu-ray 2-disc combo or the single disc Blu-ray, so you have your choice of either of those two format options. For a film which is designated at Spy number 1250, and this is described as being a film from 1988, and the name of the filmmaker is Joan Micklin-Silver. This is a film which is Crossing Delancey. So the Criterion Collection, Joan Micklin-Silver films emerging in the Criterion Collection physical media catalog continue with Crossing Delancey. And this film came in the late 1980s, right, 1988. So this film was released at a really special time in my own, say, cinema journey life or cinema loving life. And I remember seeing the film. I saw it a little bit later after it was initially released. I didn't see this in the theater, but I saw it on VHS tape. And my mom, in particular, really was taken with this film. And I also think she probably saw it on VHS rental as well. I'm not quite sure, but I think so. But she was taken with this film so much. And so my memories of this film are, I think, really wonderfully affected, not just by my own direct memories of the film, and also the poster and Amy Irving, very prominently featured on the poster, very famous poster in my opinion, I think. And so, but not just my own direct recollections of the film or my own feelings about the film based on when I first encountered it, but also in particular how my mom felt about this film. So there are many lovely memories, I think, associated in that way, and among other ways as well, about this film, Crossing Delancey. And I'm very thrilled about this. I haven't seen the film recently, and so it'll be an interesting revisiting of this film, a re-exploration of this film. And so I think maybe some of the things that I'm now thinking about the film or recollecting about the film, maybe my memory is now fading, and so I might be misremembering some things or others, or maybe I think, yeah, there are certain scenes I'm coming to mind right now. So so I look forward very much to watching it again. As I say, I haven't. Well, let me just say also that my mom, there was when we didn't see it together, the film Crossing Delancey, and I saw it separately, and then I just knew that she liked it because she said that, or I got I had the memory of her being so happy having seen the film, or was it renting the film for the however many times she had already seen the film. So I remember she was renting the film, or she got the box and was maybe in a line in the VHS store to rent the film again. And I knew that this was not her first time to watch the film. She had already seen the film before, but she was renting it again. And the smile on her face, she was so happy that she was able to get this, or was about to rent it. So, so very excited about this. Again, for a number of reasons. So I am also very pleased to see more Joan Micklin-Silver films in the Criterion Collection here. So you might know an earlier film that was released by Criterion last year, which is called Chilly Scenes of Winter. So it's nice to see more Joan Micklin-Silver works, such as Crossing Delancey. So, and this is described as being a new 4K digital restoration. And also there are new programs. So I don't know, and then also an audio interview with the director. So I don't know what the release history of this film has been on physical media. So this will be a completely new terrain for me to explore in terms of the physical media release of this film. But as I say, I'll have that to occupy my thoughts as I am re-entering the universe of Crossing Delancey as I watch it again. So I'm very, very happy about that. I also just want to note that I do like the cover art design. I haven't mentioned it before, but I do like the cover art design here for the titles thus far, including that of Crossing Delancey. There's a very intimate this watercolor motif. It's really lovely. So in any event, this is scheduled for release February 18th, 2025, and this is for spine number 1250, and this is the film which is Crossing Delancey. Next, scheduled for release, scheduled for release February 18th, 2025, yes, and this is the designated spy number 1251 of a film which is described as being from the year 1989. And wow, and the name of the filmmaker is Gus Van Sant. And the name of the film is Drugstore Cowboy. So I mentioned earlier with Crossing Delancey about it's great to see more films directed by Joe Micklin-Silver enter into the Criterion Collection Physical Media catalog fold. And also the same is true for Gus Van Sant's works. There are already a number of Gus Van Sant's works in the collection already. Most recently, there was the film which is called To Die For, which was several months back. But there are a number, not all of his directed films are in the Criterion Collection catalog, but a number of them are from his, also from his early period. But the one that was not included, at least until now, or one of them that wasn't included at least until now, is Drugstore Cowboy. But that is changed, and so at least that will be changed in February next year. So wow, this is wow. I remember seeing Drugstore Cowboy for the first time, and it was quite an experience. And again, this was something that I saw fairly young in life, and it was something where I had no idea what I was in for. And there is a kind of there's a sense of the kind of rugged, and also a sense of the external and internal pressures, and there's also the sense of youth, but also youth maybe in an observant, optimistic way of a liberation, but also perhaps in a tempered, cynical way of gone wild, or perhaps even veering into terrain that is admittedly very dangerous and also quite threatening. And that experience, I think, becomes more, shall I say, that cinematic viewing experience, I would say, I dare say, becomes more sobering as I grow, as I get older in years. And so to think about how I responded to Drugstore Cowboy as a youth versus when I revisited the film and then maybe watching it fairly, not fairly recently, but it's been some years since I've seen Drugstore Cowboy, but I was by then considerably older than when I had first seen it, so that's my point. But then also my feelings about it now, I think, have really transformed, or they've been added onto maybe by my own advent in age. So that is to say that it's an incredibly absorbing and a very intense experience for me to watch Drugstore Cowboy. And so as is I would say most of Gus Van Sant's works, in particular for me, the films that fall in what one might call this sort of early period of his filmography, a very exciting period. I mean, his filmography is quite exciting, and for me in particular, I'd say the early films do ignite a sense of excitement, and also trepidation, and also fear, and also wonder and amazement, and I say this type of sobering feeling that I have going into a film like Drugstore Cowboy. It makes for a very absorbing experience indeed. So, on that note, this announcement is again very very exciting for me, and the one that I'm sure maybe I'm not the only one who feels this way. It's a very key film in Gus Van Sant's career, and sort of a sense of trajectory, how it's definitely, yes, fueled on by many of the components, in particular, and the way in which the performances really are very shining indeed. Matt Dillon as being maybe one of the examples of that, for sure. So Drugstore Cowboy is coming to the Criterion Collection physical media catalog. You have the option, according to the site, of either a single disc Blu-ray or the 4K plus Blu-ray 2-disc combo. Oh, sorry about that. And it's described as being a new 4K digital restoration, as well as other aspects of this. So I'm again, my knowledge base in terms of the physical media release history of this film is very shallow and quite scant, so I apologize for that, but I'll try to do the best I can when I explore the film again, or when I watch the film again, but I explore it in the context of the new Criterion physical media release. Again, scheduled for release, oh gosh, I lost it, I apologize. Here we go. Scheduled for release February 18th, 2025, for spy number 1251, Drugstore Cowboy. Next, scheduled for release on February 2020, February 25th, excuse me. Did I say February 20th? No, February 25th, 2025. So that's a lot of 20s and 2s and 25s. So February 25th, 2025. And for spy number 1252, so there's a 25 in the middle there, 1252 for release that's going to be made February 25th, February 25th, 2025 for spy number 1252. Okay. And this is a film which is described as being from the year 1970. And the names of the filmmakers are Donald Cammell and Nicholas Roeg. And the name of the film is Performance. So Performance is going to be released by Criterion in February, based upon it's described as being a new 4K digital restoration. And you have your option of either the Blu-ray or the 4K UHD. So this is very exciting. How do you describe a film like Performance? I mean, it's a, one can call it, what are some adjectives or some phrases? Mind bender, a topsy-turvy thriller, a film about maybe identities, dueling identities, maybe differing identities, or maybe similar identities. Film about perceptions. A work that is, I think, quite. It is filled with a lot of twists. It's a film that is very much about maybe appearances and expectations, and indeed, yes, performances. There is I think the phrase also is a kind of shattered kaleidoscope. And one is in for a kind of, it's in many ways also, and I think this is very apropos, especially with the work of Cammell and Roeg. You have works by Nicholas Roeg that I think have a similar type of, very much are in the same vein, which is a sense of a cinematic reckoning when you watch a work like Performance. A performance is like a cinematic reckoning. Now, I came to this film, or I was able to discover this film, Performance, somewhat later in my life. But I remember when I first saw this film, it was mind-numbing and quite mind-shattering for me. And talk about a film where I'm trying to catch up with things as they as they emerge, and the twists in the narrative that seem to occur seemingly maybe out of nowhere on the one, but also quite very expertly telegraphed on the other. Um, the sort of the topsy-turvy way in which it delivers what on its surface, at least in the maybe the first opening passages, seem like a kind of almost and I mean this very positively. There's a sense of tried and true sense of narrative structure about it, which carries one with certain, say, expectations or sensibilities that I think are really turned on their heads in this powerful way, in this very confrontational way, in a way that has makes one really question what one is watching as one is watching as it's unfolding before one's very eyes. Now that's the type of stuff that's very exciting, really exciting, and I think for a lot of people, maybe performance is the ultimate encapsulation of that type of mind warping experience. So it's a stunner. It's certainly a stunner, and I don't claim to be able to understand every single facet of the film. I don't claim to understand every single facet of any film, but in particular, I don't claim to understand every single facet of performance. But I do find myself very. I am very. I feel like invigorated on the one hand and also exhausted on the other after watching performance every time I see the film. And I think that is a testament to the fact that it is a mind-bending, challenging, and very inventive film. Very confrontational film. And for reasons which I will try to maintain a sense of vagueness about it, again, for the benefit of those who might not have seen the film yet, but who might be curious. It is an intense film. There is a lot of intensity to it, and so it might not be for all, but that is, I think, maybe I could put it this way: for the filmmakers Douglas Commell and Nicholas Roeg, I think if one has seen a number of, say, films by Nicholas Roeg before, and you have enjoyed what you've seen of, say, Roeg's work, but you haven't seen performance yet, I can definitely recommend this. Definitely. What are you waiting for? I mean, you've got to check out performance if you haven't already. It is. I mean, there's some stuff in here that's very challenging, very dark. There's stuff in here that's very WTF. There's stuff in here that's incredibly imaginative, incredibly creative, and that type of boiling pot of cinematic ideas all venture together in this almost unwieldy cinematic daydream nightmare. I think is stuff of legend, in a manner of speaking. So it's good to be excited about the news about this release, I think. And I think I have, yes, I have an older Blu-ray from, this is Warner Archive Blu-ray here, but this will be something that I'm very much looking forward to. Very much looking forward to. So we have the new 4K digital restoration, and that'll give rise to either the option of the Blu-ray, the single disc Blu-ray, or the 4K Blu-ray 2-disc. And this is again for February 25th, 2025 for spine number 1252. And for the film described as being from 1970, and this is Performance. Last but certainly not least, also scheduled for release, February 25th, 2025. And this is for spine number 551. So this is a film which already currently exists in the Criterion Collection physical media catalog in a number of releases, in fact. And so this is yet one of them, again in February, of a film which is described as being from the year 1993. My goodness, 1993 again. It feels like only yesterday for me, but this is a film which is from the filmmaker Guillermo del Toro. And the name of the work is Kronos. So, Kronos is re-emerging in the Criterion Collection physical media catalog. It already currently exists, again, as I mentioned, at spine number 551, but here we have the option of the 4K plus Blu-ray 2-disc physical media release. Again, purported to be based on what's described as a new 4K digital restoration. So that'll be interesting to see what that means when February comes and the 4K Blu-ray 2-disc release is upon us. And so, Kronos, I mentioned before that there are many failings of mine, personally, and also personally and professionally, and also in terms of the context of the stuff that I do on this YouTube channel. And one of them is I don't speak enough about the films that I've seen by Del Toro. There are a number of films, not all, but there are a number of films that already are being released by Criterion. So any chance that I get, I'll try to discuss more of his works. Again, it's been my failing that I haven't spoken enough about what his films mean to me, but I'll try in the context of Kronos when this re-release occurs, or this release of a film that already currently exists in the Criterion Collection physical media catalog occurs in February of next year, or around that time. Now, I came to this film, again, fairly late. I didn't watch it upon its initial release. And when I did catch up with it, I wasn't aware of the background of, say, the production of the film or the filmmaker, Guillermo del Toro, etc. But I remember being, what would be a good way of describing it when I first saw it? Bedazzled. Yeah, it was a bedazzling experience, and there is a feel or palpability or palpable sense about work like Kronos that I admire incredibly. It is there are quite the dark moments in the film. Incredibly imaginative, very imaginatively charged, and quite intricate. There's it's this way in which the world of Kronos seems to be operating, which I one of the things that I admire so much about it. It's a film that also is quite shocked me on a number of levels when I first saw it, and that shock level continues to this very day whenever I rewatch the film or visit the film again. And then as I began to get to know a little bit more, gradually more and more of the works of Del Toro, and then coming back to Kronos, it became this multifaceted engagement with the film, which I think for me just catapulted it exponentially. And it's quite a the moments that are very wonderfully daunting. There are moments that are wonderfully, as I mentioned, bedazzled. And there's a sense of the sinister, there's a sense of the scary, the imaginatively fantastic, and much more. So it is quite the work indeed. And Kronos, there are a number of Del Toro works that are being handled by the Criterion Collection physical media catalog in terms of some of the early works by Del Toro, Kronos being one of them. And so this I'm not sure, again, I don't have my finger on the Criterion Collection release pulse, and so I don't know, I don't have any inside information or the like, so your guess is as good as mine, but could it be that perhaps we might see more of the early works of Del Toro released on 4K anytime soon? That might be interesting to see if that happens, but even if it doesn't, it's good that we'll have, we already have this available on wonderful Criterion releases already. But to add to that, we had the promise of an intriguing engagement or re-engagement, as the case may be, of this film, but this time employing the 4K UHD technology. So we shall see how that fares when we rewatch it or watch it for the first time, as I say, as the case may be. If you haven't seen Kronos, you are in for something. That's for sure. That this is such a memorable film, so wonderful, and again, February cannot arrive soon enough, I think, with this and other bits of information and news that we've gotten today. So, in any event, this is one of the exciting bits as well, scheduled for release February 25th, 2025. And this is the film, which is Kronos. So, that is the lineup as far as I can see here in terms of what's planned to be released by Criterion in February 2025. So that's quite a lineup. We have That's quite a lineup indeed. We have the re-releases, or again, maybe I'm using that phrase incorrectly. I apologize. When I say that, I mean titles that already currently exist in the Criterion Collection physical media catalog, but are getting the option of the 4K UHD physical media option release. And I'm speaking then specifically of Punch Drunk Love, which we mentioned at the top of the hour, and then Kronos, Paul Thomas Anderson film, and then the Guillermo del Toro film, to start and end February Criterion releases, at least as far as what we have on the website today. But sandwiched in between those two, we have a number of films. There was a stretch there where I was thinking, oh, maybe we're going to get 80s films, because 3 of the 4 of the new releases were, I understand it, films from the 80s. Do I have that right? But then we had one from 1970. But that's okay. If we're talking about films from the 80s, or we're talking about a film from 1970, or we're talking about a film from the 2000s, we're talking about films in between or outside the scope, whatever. A good film is a good film. So. But we do have, I think, from my eyes, and I say this every time I think I do one of these types of videos, but this is a very wonderfully pleasant group of surprises for me. Really, really pleasantly surprised by a number of these, or by all of them, for specific reasons to the release, as far as my own, say, personal attachment or my personal memories associated with my watch of these films. And so I get back to the maybe I didn't quite mention it before, but now that I'm thinking about it more and more, I think when I first read King Lear, Shakespeare's King Lear, and as I said, I'm not an expert in King Lear or Shakespeare or anything for that matter, but I did read it in high school, and I think in trying to understand and appreciate the story more, I was trying to find a little bit later adaptations of King Lear in cinema, and I think there have been a number that have been very, very, very strong. But for me, maybe as I say, when I first watched Godard's King Lear for the first time, I was like, what the heck did I just see? But upon reconsideration, I could say that, this is, I think, watching Godard's King Lear, while maybe not the most, how should I put it? It might not necessarily be the answer that comes up the most often when one is asked the question, what does one think is, quote unquote, the most, quote unquote, faithful adaptation in cinema of Shakespeare's King Lear. But that doesn't take away anything in terms of its power and its, I think, audaciousness. And so I think the point that I wanted to raise is, I think in a manner of speaking, had I discovered Godard's King Lear a little bit earlier in my life, maybe I dare say I might have been able to yet increase my appreciation of the text of King Lear, and I mean that in a very positive way. So that's my way of saying that's one of the exciting points for me in terms of the February releases. So that's one, and then another one is. I mean, maybe in a similar vein in terms of mind bendingness in cinema, We have the Godard example, and then we also have the Kamel and Rogue example of performance. And this is from 1970, or it's described as being from the year 1970. And mind-numbing and provocative, shocking, I think are just but a few words that can be attached to one, say, reaction to this film performance. I mean, this is King Lear, Godard's King Lear, I think, is shocking in many ways. Performance in its own way, too, is also very shocking. And so we have, I think, different expressions of that kind of confrontational nature of cinema, which I think is very vital and very important. It's that sense of stimuli, which I find to be one of the reasons why I love cinema so much. And if you have an example of that type of say WTF stimuli in is exemplified in a film like Performance or a film like Godard's King Lear, I think you're uh, you know, I feel very fortunate to be a film lover, that's for sure. And then to be able to watch these, very, very relatively speaking, fairly easily accessible ways in terms of these releases. That's cherry on top of the sundae for me. But yes, uh, shocking and very confrontational is the film performance for me, very much so. So that's also a very nice bit of surprise and exciting news. And then I turn to the world of Gus Van Sant, and again, this sense of the freedom and liberation on the one hand, but also a sense of the cynicism and danger on the other. And we also have tempered by a kind of sobering experience. That is, I think, a lot of the early brilliant cinematic output of Gus Van Sant. I mean, it's brilliant, absolutely brilliant, one of a kind, very, um, very, and also, provocative and thought provoking. And maybe to some viewers, itself in its own way quite shocking and quite deliberate. So, and always to uh, forge a kind of path forward, whether it be in this sort of cinematic, almost lived-in type of aesthetic on the one hand, or also maybe in the care and earnestness of the way in which the characters are being treated and their stories are being treated, or maybe a combination of the two. In many ways, this is a really important Van Sant film, and my 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 feelings of excitement. I'm feeling slightly under the weather because I'm getting over a cold, to be perfectly honest. So maybe my voice is a little bit off and my nose is stuffed up, and maybe I feel not so excited, or maybe that might seem the case. But I wish I could. I wish I could just show you more just how much this news means to me. I mean, this film, Drugstore Cowboy, is in many ways, for me personally, the film that, as I said, my own private Idaho, um, really hit a nerve for me in ways that I can't even begin to try to explain, except if I were to try to go into a deeper dive into the film discussion. But let me just stop myself here and just say that this is a film that really kind of had that spark, and I'm so fortunate to have been able to discover and encounter this film early on in my life when I did, and then to have it in the Criterion Collection physical media catalog in this manner. I think it's really quite exciting. Incidentally, I mentioned my own private Idaho, which it is also another of the Van Sant works that's currently in the Criterion Collection physical media catalog. So Drugstore Cowboy will go in that Van Sant Criterion film release category, which hopefully will grow and grow as the years progress in terms of Criterion's history. But in any event, I think I am very happy with this news of this release, Drugstore Cowboy. And I want to say too, about Crossing Delancey, and as I mentioned, this film, um, I have a lot of memories about this film, both in terms of my own direct experience with the film, watching it, and also just my own growing up, in a manner of speaking, not necessarily in ways in which I would say that the film directly touches upon my own life per se, directly, specifically, not in those terms necessarily, but more in the way in which it it had an impact on people that meant a lot to me growing up, or people that were very close to me growing up, and so and that also colors my own memories of that time in the late 1980s, entering into the early 1990s. Um, and I could say too that a lot of my discoveries, or not a lot, but a number of the films that are mentioned here, do fall into that category of that period in my life of discovering these films during that that important stretch of years, shall I say, that adolescent, early teenage years. So Crossing the Lances, when Drugs for Cowboys, when Kronos came a little bit later, but Kronos, King Lear came a little bit later, and then my discovered performance, and then Punch Drunk Love came a little bit later after that. But my point is that a number of these films in particular fell into that cross section of years that I would say was very important for me in my own cinema journey. So to be able to experience each in their own unique ways as its own different and unique and wonderful cinema journey, but then to experience them all in this sort of collective February announcement is it's very nice. So yes, let me end on that note. So also maybe I should end on a couple more things, and then I will end proper, which is we don't see it with all of the releases, but as I mentioned, whenever we get the option of the DVD format, that's always very welcoming. I'm very happy to see that when we can, and I do like the continuation. Not all of the films are getting the 4K UHD treatment, but that's okay for me too. You know, that it doesn't have to go across the board for every single title, but the fact that it's still being applied in this way, and it's slowly but surely increasing in terms of quantity or volume. So that's probably a sign of the times in terms of the way that the market trends are going in terms of physical media release, home media releases, and the consumer market, I suppose. But also the fact that Blu-ray is still apparently or it looks to be still the ultimate through line in terms of all these physical media releases. We'll always have a Blu-ray release, at least, you know, and fingers crossed, knock on wood, that will continue for many, 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 many years to come. But in any event, physical media still seems to be alive and well in the hands of Criterion, and of course, it's not just Criterion, but there are a number of great houses, a number of great labels, a number of great companies that are still releasing them, new and emerging companies as well. So it's always nice to see this. And Criterion is but one of many, I know, of those companies that are trying to continue this tradition of these physical media releases. But Criterion it's doing well, and I think February 2025 is a good example of that. So okay, so that's it. That's it for now. So I am so sorry for the long-winded comments. I hope you can forgive me. But what do you think? That's much more important than what I think is what you think, my dear friends. That's more important for me. So please let me know in the comment section below what you think. Your thoughts and comments. Are you excited? Are you not so excited? Are you happy? Are you not so happy? Or anything in between? Whatever the case may be, my dear friends, please let me know in the comments section below. As always, I am very, very interested to hear what it is you have to say. You know, what you say is much more important than what it is I have to say. So that's where all the gold is. That's where all the wonderful insights are, is what you have to say, my dear friends. So And I always learn from you. You are my teachers and my guides in this wonderful journey of exploring this wonderful, lovely thing, this great thing which we all love, which is cinema, whether it's in the hands of people at Criterion or in the hands of other people who are releasing these things, or who are distributing these things, or making these things, or arranging these things, producing these things, whatever the case may be. There are many, many people who are actively trying to continue to express in whatever fashion their love and admiration for this thing which we all love, which is cinema. So yes, keep up that wonderful spirit, my dear friends. And if you are, if it's okay, I'd love to hear what it is you have to say about these February releases from Criterion. But in any event, my dear friends, please continue to be happy and healthy and well. And please keep on watching a lot of great movies, whether they be from the Criterion Collection, whether they be from outside the Criterion Collection, whether they be on streaming or in the movie theaters, or on your DVD player or the VHS player, the Laserdiscs, or maybe projected on film, on screen, drive-in theaters, or the like. Whatever the case may be, my dear friends, please keep on watching a lot of great movies, because, my dear friends, you deserve it. You really do. So I want to thank you so much for your time. So until the next video, my dear friends, stay strong, stay safe, and cheers.